right, it is 4:01, and we are calling this meeting to order on July the 12th of 2022. At this time, the City Council will hold an executive session today for the purpose of consulting with city staff regarding personnel matters under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. And with that, we'll be in recess pending timing on the executive session. All right, it's now 4:30 on July the 12th, 2022. Executive session has ended, and we will be in further recess until 4:55. All right, it is 4:55 on July the 12th, 2022, and we are back from recess, and we will convene an open session. First of all, on our agenda, I will welcome Pastor Ben Lagasse with Redeemer Church. And before Ben comes forward and opens us in prayer, I'd just like us all to be mindful and remember the family of Ty Cook. He passed away this past week. He was a former council member, actively involved in our community, and so let's keep his family, his daughter, Kim Flanagan, and keep them in our prayers this week. And so if you'd come on forward, Ben. If we'd all please stand.
And let's pray. Father, your word tells us that you give strength to the weak. You satisfy and replenish the weary soul. That you give wisdom to those who ask. And so we ask today, give us wisdom to judge righteously, to serve and to seek the good of the people, and to safeguard human liberty so that we might have peace and prosperity in our city. And in the burdens of leadership, be the strength that holds us up. And in the stress of responsibility, be the peace which guards our hearts. And in the discouragement of failure, be the lifter of our heads. And in the day of celebration, be the source of our joy. We ask these things in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Would you please join us in the pledges to the American and the Texas flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Massengale. Our Mayor Pro Tem is absent this evening. She had the pleasure and the joy of actually not only being called to jury duty, but making the jury. So congratulations to Ms. Patterson-Harris on failing to figure out how to get out of jury duty. And before we get started with our regular agenda items, we have a special recognition tonight. We kind of put this on last minute, and we also have a special guest with us this evening. So if I could have former Mayor Dan Pope come forward, as well as Abby Dye. Well, those that don't know Abby, everybody here knows Abby. Abby has been working with the city since 2018. She worked for 4 years very closely with Mayor Pope. She's expressed to me how much he meant, and his family meant to her. And so I wanted him to come here because she's going to be leaving us on Friday. And she's going to be leaving us because she's going to start law school. Now, there are several of us up here that could probably tell her about whether that's a good idea or not. But, you know, when you work very closely with somebody, sometimes it's appropriate in these instances. And so we have this special recognition that I'll start and then end it briefly. But for the most part, she's a proud product of the great town of Farwell, Texas, a town on the right side of the railroad track separating Texas from Oklahoma. She came to Lubbock to attend LCU, and to the benefit of the entire city, she has not left. Abby began working at the city in September of 2018 as an assistant to the mayor and excelled in the high-profile position by exercising excellent administrative, diplomatic, and decision-making skills, which I can attest to in a short period of time. Abby and Mayor Dan Pope were a team for many years, and together they served Lubbock proud. Abby moved into the position of liaison to the mayor and city council earlier this year, and once again went above and beyond, especially when onboarding a new mayor and 3 new council members. And Abby is leaving the city of Lubbock to pursue a 3rd degree, this time a law degree at the Texas Tech School of Law. And while we're sad to see her go, we can't wait to see what excellent and amazing things she accomplishes in her legal career. We will miss Abby's institutional knowledge, her trust, her sense of humor, and baby pictures of her son, poor Di. And whereas Abby and her supportive husband, Trey, are tremendous Lubbockites who love their community, and it is appropriate to thank Abby for her tireless effort to support the mayor, Mayor Dan Pope, me, the city council, and the entire community. Now, therefore, we, the mayor, joined by the city council of the great city of Lubbock, do here recognize Abby Dye and encourage all the citizens to join us in thanking her for her dedication and service to Lubbock, and wish her all the best in law school and beyond. Let's give it I sprung this on him about an hour. I sprung him on this about an hour ago.
Awesome, thank you. I've written a lot of these, but I know.
You
I
never
don't know if
see
I've gotten one.
it. She's written almost all of them for 4 years, and now she's got it. All right, now she has to go back to work. I don't believe we had any citizen comments. All right, we'll move to item 4.1 on the agenda, which is the minutes from May 17th, a special city council meeting with the EUB, June 14th, a regular city council meeting, and a June 16th special city council meeting on the city council bus tour. If I could see if I could get a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve.
Thank you. And I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approval of those items on 4.1, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed by same sign. And that will carry 6-0. All right, we'll next move to the consent agenda under items 5 through 518. It is my understanding that we have 2 items, Mr. Atkinson, that have requested to be pulled from the consent agenda. That is item 5.2 and 5.6. And if I could, with approval of the council, we'll pull those out, see if there's any other discussion, and then maybe pull those back in to vote on all items if there's no objection. All right, Mr. Atkinson, I'll let you address 5.1 and 5.6. 5.2 and 5.6.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. Glad to do so. Council, first draw your attention at your place. You do have the printed attachments. You have my apologies that those did not go out with your regular agenda, but you have that. If you would like, you can flip through that. If you turn to the last page, you do have a tabular summary of the totality of this budget amendment. So what is item 5.2? This is where we now see the inflationary pressures that have caught up to the city on some of really the most common items that we need. To set the stage on that, from when the budget was prepared and voted on now roughly 11 months ago, natural gas in the market is up 100%. Diesel is up 72%, and unleaded fuel is up 57%. We actually did project what we thought were significant increases when we wrote the budget, and obviously we did not project far enough up. If you break it into the 3 main components, the total that we are asking you to amend our existing budget, so current year budget, we are asking you to move $430,000 to our various electric accounts. You see on the top of that exhibit how that affects the different funds. So normally budget amendments are a single fund. This one is bigger than that. You have general fund, Lake Allen Henry, the water wastewater fund, aviation, and civic center for electric. Total add $430,000. Unleaded fuel, the middle of that page, we are requesting an increase in the amount of $716,192. You see the list of the different funds there that are impacted by that request. Finally, at the bottom of the page, you have diesel, $1,002,505, and you see those funds as well. The general fund the general fund will account for 1.45 million of the 2.148 million total. Single largest user, single largest number of vehicles and equipment. Water and wastewater is 410,000 of that total. Then it trickles down to LP&L and the various. But 1.86 million of the 2.1, we'll call it 2.15, is between the general fund and the water and the wastewater fund. Council, this is to carry us through September 30th. As we bring your budget to you the first week of August, you will see how this impact carries over and continues into the next year's budget. With that, Mayor, pause and take any questions you may have on this item.
Do we have any questions of Mr. Atkinson? Ms. Joy.
A couple of questions.
Ms. Joy has a couple of questions.
Thank you, Mayor. When you say electric, we're talking about what keeps the lights on, the air conditioning, all of that. That's the electric bill for the city, right?
That is correct, and you might notice the single largest consumer of electricity is your water and wastewater fund. So that is operating the 2 water treatment plants, the 2 wastewater treatment plants, various pump stations, and that throughout town.
And the way that these would be paid, you're amending the budgets, but for the enterprise funds, like water and wastewater, that money will be coming from?
In all cases, the dollars that we are asking for will come from the fund balance, the reserve account for each of these funds.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Atkinson on 5.2? All right, moving on to item 5.6.
Okay, item 5.6 is a resolution authorizing the City Council to accept on behalf of the city a warranty deed. That deed will include 12 tracts that I'll detail for you in just a moment, that are various parcels of land that are currently owned and title is held by the Urban Renewal Agency. Urban Renewal Agency, a federal program, goes back to the early 1970s. It was initially intended to address slum and blight. It did so by cleaning up properties. Remember that Lubbock suffered the tornado in 1970, so we ended up with our Urban Renewal Agency owning a very, very large number of tracts. Over the years, many have been sold for redevelopment. The City Council, about 4 years ago, took possession of a very large number of these tracts that are in what is known as the Phyllis Wheatley Addition, which is an entire neighborhood just south of the Lubbock Memorial Cemetery that doesn't exist anymore. So we brought those tracts in. We own the vast majority now of those tracts, and that land can be set aside today for no development. In the future, potentially that's your expansion for the cemetery. There's not another way to go with that. Jump forward to where we are tonight. As I mentioned, there are 12 tracts. You might call this a bit of a cleanup, so I'll detail the tracts for you. One of the 12 is located at the airport, and it is in the middle of the large cotton field that you see as you make the left-hand turn to come into the airport. Cannot tell you why, but that is where it is. It's operated as airport property. It is part of our agricultural lease. This cleans up the issue with the deed. Going back to the cemetery, 2 of these tracts are those 2 landscape tracts as you come in the main entrance from the west. By appearance, that at one time was likely a residential lot. The entrance was put in the middle, and the 2 remnants on the corner ended up in the Urban Renewal Agency. The 9 remaining actually are existing parks or pieces of those existing parks throughout the city. How did they get there? One of the parks was a neighborhood at one point, or at least a piece of it, and that's Oslon Park. Some of it is old right-of-way that the railroad has seeded out over the years, and we have a very nice linear park in one of those. So to go by name, There's a piece of Aslan Park in here. There are two of what we now call the Carrillo family recreation area, Lake 3, whatever you wish to call that. Hollins Park, which is old railroad right-of-way that was cleaned up around it. Palatine Park, and what we know is the Guadalupe Strip. And the Guadalupe Strip is really a great example of a linear park here in Lubbock, and it's both sides of a railroad right-of-way with that. Council, if you do approve and accept these tracts tonight, the Urban Renewal Agency will end up thus with 64 parcels remaining in their possession, so that number is being steadily brought down. Those tracts are available for sale. They're also available for further transfer to the city. They're about to the point now that especially the residential tracts, either because they are located next to a railroad or they are in a flood zone, they can still be redeveloped, but they cannot be redeveloped with our programs that provide federal assistance to do so. If that works for them and there's willing buyers, that'll go through the process. If not, we will continue to move tracts over to the city. There are two large tracts near one of the new elementary schools that we really do hope get redeveloped.
Mr. Atkinson, thank you. I guess my specific question, I think it's in the information provided, but for the citizens, the transfer of this vacant lots has no fiscal impact on our general fund. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's a good point, Mayor. Even these that I listed that are parts of our parks, we are currently maintaining those and providing them to the public.
Is the long-term goal for most of these properties that are in their possession to be moved or sold? Is that the plan? Is that what we're working through?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. Thank you very much.
Those remaining properties need to be put back to beneficial use in private hands. That's the goal.
Ms. Joy?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. You said these properties are available to be sold. You're not talking about the parks,
No,
right?
none of these right here. I'm talking about the 64 remaining
Okay, all
parcels.
right, thanks.
Ms. Martinez Garcia?
Actually, that was my question as well. I
All
just
right,
want to
thank
make
you.
sure Palatine Park wasn't, or Aslan Park were not going to be affected. Otherwise, you'd have a lot of unhappy citizens.
They are not for sale, and we could not sell them even if for some reason we desired to do so.
But just to make sure the other 64 tracks are not in the neighborhood where they could impact the quality of life for those citizens. Am I right? Or
The remaining 64, other than the two that are right south of Irvin Elementary, are scattered far and wide. Some of them are truly remnants. A right turn lane was put in and it chopped off a triangle. So those will just be cleaned up over time.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Atkinson on item 5.6? All right, thank you, Mr. Atkinson. If we will look at items 5.1 through 5.18, if I could get a motion to approve those items. Thank you, Ms. Martinez Garcia. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Joy. Have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving items 5.1 through 5.18, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by same sign? All right. Motion carries 6-0. All right, that'll next bring us to our regular agenda. First up, we have board appointments and an item to consider appointments to the Appointments Advisory Board, Building Board of Appeals, and all those listed thereof. We had some discussion that there's still some information that may be needed by the council on some of these appointments and some other information to gather. Ms. Joy, do you have a motion on item 6.1?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I move to postpone the City Council's consideration of making appointments to boards, item 6.1, to a date certain, that being the council's second meeting in August, which is to be held on the 23rd of August, 2022.
I'll second Ms. Joy's motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All that approve of moving item 6.1 to the August 23rd, 2022 agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by same sign? The motion carries 6-0. All right, we're going to go ahead and move out of order to item 6.4. Item 6.4 was a second reading from a request from Canyon Rock Development for a zone change from T to Light Manufacturing District M1. That item required a supermajority at the first reading, and Ms. Patterson Harris, because of her call to the jury service, is not available tonight. So because she's not available on that vote, we had discussed moving item 6.4 to our next council meeting. Do I have a motion, Mr. Massengale?
Yes, Mayor, I move to postpone consideration of item 6.4 until our meeting on July 26th of 2022.
Second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez Garcia. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of moving agenda item 6.4 to our next council meeting on July 26th, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed by same sign? Our motion carries 6-0. All right, that'll take us back to item 6.2. This is to consider a resolution appointing the City of Lubbock's representative to the steering committee to represent the city in all matters related to the future construction and operations of the Hope Center. Mr. Atkinson, could you just give me a brief overview of item 6.2?
Be glad to do so. The future Hope Center is a project that's going to provide a service to our community that does not exist today. It's the opportunity to construct and operate what's commonly called a diversion center. This is a facility that allows law enforcement, that allows social workers, that allows hospitals to have a place to take an individual in crisis for the most appropriate treatment that they're likely not to get if they end up, whether that's in an emergency room or it's in the jail or any other places. It's a well-studied project. It's very successful in places that do exist. This city council has tendered $3.5 million out of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds to this, and the Lubbock County Commissioners Court has done the same. A condition that is associated with those dollars is the establishment of a steering committee. And that steering committee is to have a representative from each of the members of the West Texas Mental Health Collaborative. Councilmember Joy has represented the City of Lubbock on that since it originally began with the Kresge Foundation grants that kind of put a roadmap together for us. What we're asking the council to do today is to make an appointment to that steering committee. This project cannot begin to move forward until each of those various members have done so. I believe this puts Lubbock first, may not, but I think this puts us first to make that designation and to have an opportunity to get started. Those ARPA dollars do have an expiration date, and we don't want to run to that. And we really do need this service in the community. Mayor, I'll take any questions.
Well, I'll just say I think my understanding is Ms. Joy has had the most experience. She's been on this board the longest standing member of our council, and also probably has more background on this issue. So I am in favor of, as far as discussion of appointing Ms. Joy to that position. I think this is necessary since we are allocating $3.5 million to this, that we have a strong presence on the steering committee. And that's mostly a comment, I guess, not any questions for you, sir. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Atkinson, specifically on 6.2? Mr.
Mayor.
Ms. Joy.
It might be helpful to let people know that this committee is composed of a representative from Texas Tech University, from the Health Sciences Center, the Lubbock County, the City of Lubbock, and and the two hospitals, Covenant
ISD.
Hospital and UMC. There's not any ISD. Those are the 6. And they participated from day one in the study that was done. And so those are what we refer to as the partners in this collaborative effort.
All right, any other questions of Mr. Atkinson? Mr. Massengale, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd make a motion to appoint Latrell Joy to the Hope Center Steering Committee to represent the city of Lubbock.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I second that motion. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on item 6.2? All right. All in approval of item 6.2, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by same sign? All right, motion for the appointment of Ms. Joy to the steering committee carries 6-0. All right, that moves us to agenda item 6.3, and this is a second reading request of Beatonbow Homes for 87th Street Partners for a zone change from general retail district to a two-family district at 9902 Upland. And at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Sager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This zone change request was presented at the last meeting, and there was discussion regarding the ingress and egress into the development. Beatonbow submitted a revised plan showing an additional egress onto 98th Street, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you for showing that slide first, Ms. Sager.
Sure.
All right. I think we had discussed this. I think that was one of the questions Dr. Wilson had. Is there any other questions of Ms. Sager at this point? All right. If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to approve item 6.3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on item 6.3? All right. All in favor of approval of agenda item 6.3, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed by same sign? All right. Agenda item 6.3 carries 6-0. I do want to say from the dais, I really do appreciate Abby Dye. I know we gave her a special recognition, but I appreciate her and her time. Thank you to all that showed up here tonight. And with that, it is, excuse me?
Yes, I wanted to introduce that.
Oh, go ahead.
We went through ceremonial so fast earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry. So sorry.
No, you're good. So I thought I'd catch it then. So I've got a special guest here today. Miss Shalina Laverty has joined us today. She is a nurse that works at Covenant in our transfer center, and I work with her very closely. She is working on her master's degree in nursing and is taking a leadership healthcare class. And was very interested in attending a city board and learning how to further get healthcare involved in not only healthcare governing boards, but city governing boards and politics in general. So we're happy to have her here today.
Welcome.
Yes.
Do you want to come up and say a few words in front of the entire crowd?
She's very shy. She is horribly embarrassed that I introduced her, but I wanted everybody to know
That's
she's
even
here.
better. Well, thank you for being here tonight. It was a pleasure meeting you. And with that, does anybody else have any other comments? It is 5:22 on July the 12th, and we'll be adjourned.